Good morning, everybody. This is Tim Bennett from Argon Animation and Argon Vision. And welcome to another Film Finance channel. We have an awesome guest with us today. And before we get started, I just want to check that everybody can hear me okay. We've got Chuck, Dave, Jimmy Woo. Hey, Jimmy, John Wayne is here. John R. and Tim. So good morning and welcome. Today we are going to be talking about crowdfunding, how to market a film using other people's money. And if you've made a film and used your own money, you know the pain of that. And I decided that I wanted to make my next movie without using any of my own money. And I'm sure there's some of you here. Where are you all based? If you just type into the chat box where you're coming from, just so we can see, it'd be fantastic to know where everyone is. Dave is in Philly, Tim is in Chicago, John, New York, Jimmy from Australia, and John Wayne from Houston. Wow, we're very international, so good to see you all here. And have many of you actually used crowdfunding as a source? Maybe you can just type in as well. Dave said yes, he's used it. Cool. Maybe a bit later on, what we'll do is open some of the lines and you can share some of your experiences, or if you have any questions, feel free to jot them down in the chat box and we will ask them as we go along. And then maybe for some of the questions towards the end, we can actually go live with you. I can open the lines live. Dave said he's used crowdfunding. Tim said not yet. John is working on something now. Awesome. And Chuck says he's coming from Holland. Wow, so we're really international. That is fantastic. We've got about 6 or 7 different countries here. So today we have a very special guest. He's an actor, he's a writer, he's a producer. He has appeared in films such as Bram Stoker's Dracula. He's been in theater in events like The Diary of Anne Frank. And apparently he's a dancer with robot as his specialty. So I'm sure we'll ask him about that a bit later. He's also best supporting actor 2011, 2012 at the Sacramento Film Music Festival. He's the owner of Blink Eye Photography. He's the producer of what it looks like is going to be an awesome movie called First Out. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Matthew Donaldson. Hey, Matthew.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me on, Tim. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate you being here, and thank you for sharing your time with us, your knowledge and your experience. It's awesome to have you here.
It's a pleasure. It's really cool that we have that many, that it's that international. I wasn't unaware that there would be that many people, but it makes sense. Having an Englishman in the Philippines running a webinar, it would make sense that we would draw all different types, and that's exciting to me. So I'm interested to hear other people's experiences too when we open it up later. So,
yeah, and when I say good morning, for me and the Australian teams, it's actually 8 a.m. in the morning right here for me, and I think about 9 or 10 a.m. in the morning in Australia. So we really all different time zones. So that's fantastic. Jimmy says yes, 10 a.m. And Jimmy follows me around. Jimmy's one of my stalkers. He follows me around on a lot of the webinars. So. Great to have you here again, Jimmy.
Anyway, that guy's probably becoming one heck of a filmmaker too, because he's gleaning all this knowledge. The guy's probably got 4 or 5 projects funded already.
Absolutely. We've spoken to some great people over the last 2 or 3 months in the film industry, sharing their secrets, and I'm sure everyone's excited to hear from you all about your secrets about crowdfunding. But before we get going there, maybe you could just give a quick introduction of yourself, what you've done, who you are, and why you're here.
Certainly. The name's right there, plastered across the screen. But my name is Matthew Donaldson, and I got my start. I guess what led me to crowdfunding ultimately was my passion for entertainment. I've been entertaining ever since I was a 3-year-old with my older sister, and I used to sing songs on my grandpa's weekly television show. He had like a cable access show. And so we started out young, and then in high school getting into drama and always kind of being the class clown and always understanding the importance and the power of laughter and being able to draw that and get a room to start laughing and enjoying themselves and kind of unfortunately, it doesn't work too well when your teacher is trying to control the class and teach you, geography or U.S. history or something like that. Nevertheless, I noticed just the ability to make people laugh or to engage people and command their attention. And then I started getting into film acting outside of high school. Got more interested in that, doing stuff on camera. So I didn't really kind of left the stage for a while and started taking classes and found an agent and started working that and developing my skills in that and going on auditions and just it's the same process that pretty much everyone goes through. It's not, unless you're born into the family, unless you're Nicholas Coppola, Nicolas Cage, or, somebody where you just kind of have it handed to you. You go through this process as an actor, and we all do it, and it's fun. And if you love it, it's not about anything but other than just doing what you love doing and not being able to not do it. You get to the point where you can't not act if that's what you're supposed to do, or entertain, or write if you're a writer, or take pictures if you're a photographer, or paint if you're a painter. It's that thing that if it's in you, you have to do it. So it led me down the road, and I've been going for about the last 10 years. I've really been hitting it hard and have been blessed and very fortunate to have some great opportunities and to stack up a resume in that department of film and theater and commercials and music videos and short films and feature films and some industrials, which are basically just commercials that aren't on television. Stuff for like Samsung. I did about 4 spots for them, but they're all internal. It's just for them to sell their products to buyers, or however they do that. So, but ultimately, being involved in a lot of projects, you start seeing the things that go right, or the things that go well, the things that are successful, tactics, methods. When it comes to filmmaking, especially, there's things that work and things that don't, and so and then also being a writer and getting involved with the inception of stories and the forming of stories, and then wanting to see those stories realized, I slowly started getting into producing. At first, I'm the kind of actor that when I'm on set, if I'm not acting, and if I'm not in my script, then I'm probably shadowing the DP or the AD or some crew member that I can learn from and just stay out of the way and just gain as much knowledge as I can about the process, because I'm interested in filmmaking as the whole collaborative process of it, the entire art form from conception to distribution. So it's and so in that I just started being there and kind of ear hustling certain conversations, and somebody would say, we really need this. It would be great if we had this piece of equipment, or if we had this person to do this job. And being a networker, being somebody who likes to talk to people, who sees the value in people, and we'll get to that as we're talking more about team building, because that's a big part of crowdfunding and running a successful campaign is team building. But just seeing the value in other people and what they bring to the table, I would chime in once in a while, and somebody says, hey, if I hear the director or the producer say, hey, we need this, I throw my hat in the ring and say, hey, I know a guy that can do this, or I know a woman that's really talented at this, or I know this actor or this actress, and so slowly I just noticed that I can get some things done with the network that I've built as an actor, and so I just started tapping into my network as an actor and signing on to produce things, and then and I've developed through that. I've developed some business relationships, some what will be probably lifelong creative partnerships, and formed companies and dissolved companies, and been going through that. And then this crowdfunding thing came along, and just kind of started changing the game, because I noticed the main thing that we would run into as an independent filmmaker would be money. What are you going to do? You can only ask people to work for free for so long, and then it gets old. You wear your welcome out. When you're paying your dues and you're cutting your teeth, if you're in film school, or you're trying to do things on the cheap, or maybe you're doing a film race, which is a very excellent way to learn this process. Film racing is actually really cool. Costs a little bit of money, but that's something that you can usually come out of pocket and not really hurt yourself too much, and find find some really good team members and get some really good results and some projects and products out of that. But unless you're doing something like that, you can't just ask people to work for free all the time, and you won't get the better you get, you'll realize that you're limited by the money that you have. It takes money. It's show business. So there is no show without the business. And I know that I didn't come up with that phrase, but it makes perfect sense. You have to do the business in order to put on the best show that you can. And so that led me to crowdfunding. And I had heard about it, and originally I had actually heard about crowdfunding when it was called microloans, and before Kickstarter, and before the creative community, global creative community, kind of got a hold of this concept. It was happening in the philanthropic world already. It was already kind of happening in the sense of third world countries. For example, you have you live in the Philippines, so let's say in Manila there's a tribe, there's a maybe in a rainforest somewhere, there's a tribe of people living off the grid, not part of the system, and they need to plant a crop. Maybe there was a flood or something that destroyed their crops, and they need to feed their village, and all it would take is $200 US. That's all it would take for them to have the materials they need, the seeds they need, everything, to plant a field that will feed a village. But they don't have that money. That's how indigent they are. That's that's how impoverished these people are, because money might be foreign to them, whatever the case may be. So they started this concept called microloans, where if you can ask 200 Americans for $1, if you just ask them for a small amount, everybody's got a dollar. It's like a tip jar. It's like walking past a homeless person and feeling compelled in your heart to give to them. You don't always give to everyone, but there's those ones that you just feel it's the right time, and that person's going to use it for the right thing. That's what microloans, that was the whole concept behind it, was let's get 200 people to give this village $1 each, and then they feed their children and their animals, and that just expanded. So microloans that was the genesis, I believe, personally, of crowdfunding.
But it's funny you mention that, if I can just jump in, because here in the Philippines, and I'm sure there's a lot of people around the world who have similar tribes. We actually do have tribes here that are in that state. We actually do have a lot of flooding here in the Philippines as well, especially in the provinces. And I actually have a friend who works with groups like that to, one, help them stay tribal, and two, to help them raise money for things just as you've been talking about, and using crowdfunding as doing it. And we're actually looking at making it a film project as well.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's what excites me, Tim, too, is where this originated. I love where this concept kind of came from. People helping people. That's ultimately what is at the core of it. And things get convoluted the more you push it in the direction of Hollywood and filmmaking or artistic projects, because there's just so many things that you can crowdfund and crowdsource for. But it's pretty cool that they do that. There's one that I still I'm actively participating in called Charity Water, and Charity Water is charity : water, but it's a crowdfunding website but allows you to build clean water projects, so that countries that have populations with unpotable water, undrinkable water, and not only is it undrinkable, but it's so far away from where they live that they spend all day going to get the water to bring it back just to make themselves sick, and so they're not getting an education, and a lot of times it's the women and the children that are making these hikes and sacrificing their time and their education and their early years, and fetching water that they can't, that's not even healthy for them. So crowdfunding is still being used for those purposes, so that's good. And but it's also evolved into this other thing, which allows independent filmmakers and people that should have the opportunity to make films. We all know not everybody's gonna get a meeting with a studio executive who's just going to green light them on multi-million-dollar films. It's not going to be the reality for most of us, or maybe any of us, who knows. But there's a way to still tell our stories. There's still a way to do our art, to do what we love and what we're passionate about, and to help each other out. You know, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. I've donated to campaigns that I'm not even involved with before, and that's another part of it too. It's kind of, you know, put that good energy out there. Don't just ask people for money. Then balance it out. Give as well. Whether it's giving, like for example, this is a way I can give my time and share the knowledge. You know, I'm not going to hold anything back. Anything anybody wants to know, they might be secrets to me only because you don't know them yet, but I'm not going to keep it a secret. It's, you know, there's plenty of it to go around. Me passing this information on is not going to stop me from getting my projects funded and my campaigns funded. It just might help you get yours funded, and that's ultimately the goal. So,
but I think there's a big part of giving that creates this loop that as you give more to the industries, to the universe, you do seem to attract more towards you as well. And I see lots of successful people giving so much of their time and still being successful. So I think you made some great points here. But I've had this conversation a few times with a few of the guys that we've interviewed here, that I think being a filmmaker is very much like being an entrepreneur. And part of being an entrepreneur is sales and financing. And, you know, we're selling a product at the end of the day. And you make a very good point about it being a business. You know, we are passionate about what we do. We do love what we do, but we also have to make money doing it. Otherwise, we won't be able to do it. And business is part of it. What's your experience and background in sales and financing? And how has it helped you with crowdfunding?
So sales has been something, I love math, and in dealing with people, it's just a natural thing. Standing in front of people, I don't have any fear talking to people. I just, sales was something that I kind of naturally fell into. Some people, you know, have a gift for engineering, or some people go into medicine. Some people will do whatever they do. I actually didn't even go to college traditionally. I've spent a lot of time in college, in various colleges, working on projects, auditing classes, and just being involved or guest speaking. But I actually didn't go to college. I got into sales. Out of high school, I started acting and taking those classes, and I worked sales jobs. So a couple of retail, and then I moved into a sales management position working for an auto accessories place, kind of an aftermarket accessories, a chain, and I was marketing a location in Sacramento. And then I moved to San Francisco, and I got a job as a mortgage consultant back when things were still good, between 2005 and 2007. And I went down there, and I was working for a company called A&B Lending, and they were a very reputable firm, smaller, which I liked. They dealt mostly with A-paper and Alt-A, which is the people that qualify. We avoided most of the subprime stuff, which is kind of what caused that market to collapse, and eventually led to getting laid off. They shut the whole office down. There was just shops going down left and right, people closing their doors, and so it was unavoidable. But it was a good 2 years, and I learned a lot about financing. It was directly involved with real estate purchases and refinancing, but it was all over the country, and I learned just a lot about how financing works, how banks work, how lending works, how rates work, just the ins and out, the numbers game, how to play that. And I met a lot of people in that, you know, just by, you know, integrity and being good at what I did and being honest. And, you know, there's nothing more valuable than your reputation and your name. And whether people like you or not, you rub people the wrong way or not, if you're a person of integrity, if they can count on you to at least be honest with them and be straight with them about something, you know, they might not like your approach, but they'll respect that. And I definitely developed some really good relationships doing that, and learned a lot about financing. So when that market collapsed in 2007, I had a little money. I'm single, no children, you know, not a whole lot of bills, and I was making good money. And so I haven't gone back. That was kind of my kick in the pants. I was living in San Francisco, and I was traveling back and forth to LA, from San Francisco to LA a lot, and doing a lot of acting, a lot of theater and commercial and film and stuff. And when that happened, I decided, you know what, I'm going to collect unemployment for a little bit and then use my savings, and I'm going to just pursue acting as a full-time career. Quickly after that, a couple of years after that is when actually I started producing things. About 6 years ago is when I produced the first short film that my roommate wrote, and I wasn't even in it. It was an art piece, total art piece. The characters were bicycles. There weren't the only people you saw were just the legs of the people riding the bikes, but it was actually told from the perspective of two bicycles, and it was fun, and it was and I just got a taste for getting in there and making phone calls and locking in locations and getting resources secured and logistics, scheduling things, making sure people have breaks, making sure people aren't overworking, making sure people are fed. It really comes down, producing just really ultimately, it comes down to what would you like? If you were in this position, would you like to eat? Would you like to be able to take a break to go to the bathroom? Would you like to sleep at some point? It becomes pretty rudimentary. And so that was my kick in the pants. That was my last sales job, but really it propelled me into the ultimate sales job, the job that'll be my sales job for the rest of my life, which will be selling myself as a filmmaker, as an actor, and then because we are entrepreneurs, and we are our own business. I am a business. Matthew Donaldson is a business, and I'm the owner and operator, and so I have to be self-motivated, and I have to go out there and sell myself as an actor, as a writer, as a producer, as a photographer, as a consultant for crowdfunding campaigns. Within the last couple of years, that's something that's been coming up. And then selling projects, selling stories, selling people on the idea that this is a story that needs to be told, and this is why you need to help us tell it. I have the resources, I have the team in place to make this the best film, the best music video, the best theater production, whatever it is. We have all of this stuff in place. We need you to believe in that and give us money and back it. And then also you have to be able to show them the return. There has to be an incentive. Unless you find somebody that is just filthy rich and is interested in just throwing money at something and not looking for anything in return. But those are unicorns. There's a difference between whales and unicorns. There are whales who have money and are looking to make money, and then there are unicorns. And I've never met one, but there's definitely a way to sell yourself and sell your project to the whales. But then there's crowdfunding, which... Well,
yeah, but the reason I was asking about the sales and financing background was because I think one of the mistakes that people make in crowdfunding, and let's start switching over to talking about crowdfunding now.
Yeah, let's do it. One
of the mistakes I see is possibly when I first heard about crowdfunding, I was like, oh, wow, you mean people will actually send me money, I can go and build a house?
Right.
And I think one of the areas that people lack is they just jump in without really studying it. And I think to understand how sales works and to understand how money works and how the whole system works before we start using it is really important. And, when I think I learned about crowdfunding about 18 months ago, and it's something I've not used yet, but I'd certainly like to use it. When did you first learn about it, and what experiences have you had with it, with crowdfunding?
So great question. I first learned about it I first learned about crowdfunding 3 years ago, realizing what it was that people were using. This was the same reaction that you had, kind of like, this is a real thing. Like, people really are. You can go on and put your project on there, and people will give you money to make your music CD, or I have a lot of friends that are in bands, a lot of musician friends, and I think that is actually the first time I saw that I realized that this was happening. Was a friend's band made their album because they got a couple $1,000s from their fans, and I learned what this was.
And I just jump in again, just 1 minute. If anyone's got any questions for Matthew while we're talking about crowdfunding, please type them into the chat box, and then we'll ask Matthew as we go through so that he can address some of your personal issues as well. So feel free to do that. Carry on, Matthew.
So the first time I used it, I'll just skip ahead. So between the time I learned about it and it was kind of, the seed was planted in my mind, like, that's interesting. I wonder if I'll ever do that. I wonder if I'll ever use that. That's a lot like microloans. And I researched a little bit and realized that it was similar and kind of where it came from. And then my creative partner Joshua B. Porter, he and I have a company called The Bushman Presents. We've done some commercials, we've done some award-winning short films, and we did a music video. We had a Bay Area band called The Illness, and they came to us. My good buddy Matt Zipkin, he's an amazing musician, and he's done some scoring for some films that I've done, just phenomenal. And he's an audio engineer. Anyways, he's in a band called The Illness, and they approached us wanting to do a music video. And they had a little bit of money, but for what Josh and I wanted to do and the concept, this wasn't your traditional music video. We came up with a narrative. It's one of those music videos that has the bookends where it starts telling a little story, then the song starts and the story continues, and then the song ends, and then there's a little bookend and it wraps it up. And we had this concept. We knew that the money that they had as a band wasn't going to be enough, and so we pitched the idea to them. Hey, you guys don't have enough money. We're not going to put our own money into this because you're hiring us, and that doesn't make any sense business-wise. But you guys have a fan base, and we don't need that much money. And we have some people that we know would help us because they like the work that we do. Why don't we do this? How do you guys feel about that? How do you guys feel about us making a little video, putting it on Kickstarter, starting a campaign? So I started research, and they went for it. They loved the idea. They were like, if you think we could do that. So ultimately, we thought it out. One of the main first steps is being realistic about setting your goal of the amount that you want, especially with Kickstarter, because Kickstarter is all or nothing. If you raise your goal amount, you get all of it, and whatever you overfund. If you're 1 cent short, you get nothing. So it's an all or nothing with Kickstarter. Others with like Indiegogo have flex funding, which is great. It's a great niche to have, to where you'll pay a little bit more of a percentage to them if you don't hit your goal, but you'll still get the money that you raised, the majority of the money that you raised. But so we set a realistic goal of $5,000, and we did a 30-day campaign, and we funded about a week ahead of schedule and ended up raising a little over $6,000 on Kickstarter. And then so we were able to have a little extra padding, and we made the music video, and it's been done for a long time. It's out there, collecting views all over YouTube and different music video websites, and the band uses it, and so that that project was a very good introduction to crowdfunding. It was definitely a crash course. We have a really good friend. That's kind of what I touched on earlier about building your team. I realized early on in filmmaking, in producing, collaboration is the key. I feel nobody should try to do this alone. I mean, Robert Rodriguez, who writes and shoots and directs and does everything, has teams of people. I mean, there's still hundreds of people on the credits when you watch his films. It takes a village to do these things. And same thing with crowdfunding. Kickstarter campaigns are a project within themselves. You should always plan at least 2 months, because you need prep time, and then you need time to run it. And then there's even the follow-up of paying out your incentives and paying out the rewards that people have pledged for. So
well, we have an interesting question. If I can just jump in a moment,
please.
From Trevor. Trevor, do you have a microphone? And if so, can I open the line? And you can ask Matthew directly the question.
You there, Trevor?
Trevor, do you have a microphone? Let me just try opening his line anyway. And, okay, Trevor, your line is open now, if you're here with us. If not, I'll ask it directly. All right, well, unless you can come in. The question is, how can you get people who don't know about your project interested, and what methods can be used to attract the general public for a short campaign?
Okay. Well, that's a really, really good question. I would be lying if I said that this is an exact science in any way, but I can tell you some methods that are helpful. For one, like I was saying, kind of what I was starting to say was putting the team together. One of the people on our team is Amelia Bell, who is a social media marketing, branding. That's what she does. I would say she's an expert in that for sure. Her company sends her all over the place to teach that. on those subjects, and we brought her on for the First Out campaign. We raised $30,000. We did another Kickstarter campaign in 2012 at the end of the year, and we raised $30,000 for a feature film that we're doing. And it wasn't to make the film. That was just seed money. That wasn't even our budget for the film, which is a whole other thing. But we brought on a social media marketing branding person, and what she was able to do is, through branding, coming up with the logo, slogans, and all across the social media platforms, everything you could.
Yep, go ahead. Yep, it's okay.
But Amelia, sitting down and having strategy meetings, and also we had we brought on a consultant friend of ours named Ross Pruden, who's up in the Washington area. And Ross is that guy. He researches. He knows a lot about crowdfunding. He's done one campaign, but he's the one that he taught me one of the most valuable things about building your fan base, and that's something that you can start before you start your campaign. I was talking about how there's about a month or even more, a month or 2 or 3, depends on what you're trying to do. There's work to be done before you ever launch your campaign. So Trevor, one thing that you could start doing now, before, if you know that you're planning on doing a campaign, start building a fan base. Get on, find influencers in that same genre of film, and on that topic. If your project revolves around a cause of any type, whether it be human rights, civil rights, any kind of thing, like the disaster relief, the tornadoes in Oklahoma. I already saw, first thing this morning I saw on Indiegogo is that there's a campaign where they're running an Indiegogo campaign to raise money for relief for the people that were victims of the Oklahoma tornado. So, but building a fan base and doing that work ahead of time, that's one of the best things that Ross taught me, is that you want to get your people involved. No donation, no pledge is too small. So you want to go after the $1 pledges, and you want to go after the $500 pledges, but you want to build that fan base, and social media is a great way to do that. Branding yourself, go on, get your Facebook page, get your Twitter handle, get your Google Plus, and start connecting with influencers in those genres. Get them excited about that. Get them to retweet. Get them to build a buzz before you ever even launch your campaign. Start getting things going. Let people know that it's coming. Ask questions. Post things that are on topic but not even directly related to your thing, and just get a conversation, get a dialogue going, get people following you, get people interested, get people following, liking your Kickstarter, your Facebook page. And get everything. You can start doing that as soon as possible, and then once you're actually running a campaign and getting it out to the public, people that aren't in your warm circle, not people that aren't your friends on Facebook, people that aren't going to see it directly through your social media and your own email list, getting it out to the general public, that's tricky. A couple ways to do it. If you're on Kickstarter, you're going to want to do updates. When you're running your campaign, you're going to want to do anything that you can to keep yourself current on that website, whether you're whether you're doing updates, which keeps you on the recently updated page. And updates are important because it keeps people engaged in what you're doing. You don't want to just do textual updates. You want to do little video updates. You want to do something with graphics. You want to introduce a new tier. That's another thing, don't put all your tiers out there right at the onset. Build your tiers, get those structured properly, but hold something back, like a Blu-ray release or a t-shirt or something that you can insert halfway through the campaign whenever you need that little jolt of life, because there are the lulls. You'll start out strong, like with the First Out campaign that we ran. We had an event to let people know about it also. We actually threw an event at a hotel in San Francisco and had about 100 people, and it was fancy. We had people that donated wines. We had a wine table. We had a jazz band, 2 a cappella groups. We had the president of the Bar Association in San Francisco, the chairman of the Human Rights Commission, LGBT Steering Board. We had some keynote speakers, the director of the film, different people that came up. And so we made it a whole event, had invitations made, sent them out, and hand-selected people and brought them to an event. And we raised $6,000. So we raised 20% of our budget right, of $30,000 right there in the first couple hours. And then we raised some more, in the days following that, and then we hit a lull, and then we raised a few more thousand, and then we hit a real lull. And then, so it's not an exact science. It's like people that market themselves as viral media companies. It's an oxymoron. It's kind of an oxymoron. It's not really possible. You can't plan for something to go viral. You can't make something go viral. You can hope that it does. You can try to follow the formula of something else that did. You can hope, but nobody knew that Gangnam Style was going to be on its way to 2 billion views on YouTube. It's sitting at 1.5 billion views now. Like, nobody realized, they didn't realize when they made that music video that it was going to go viral like that. With crowdfunding, it's the same way. It's hard to know what the public is going to catch on to. That's why you can't plan on it. You have to, when you're strategizing and when you're planning and when you're setting your goal amount, you have to be realistic about how much do you think you can raise just within your warm circle, and those are the people that you have contact with or that you can directly reach. You and the team that you build. That's why it's so important to build the team. I might have 500 friends on Facebook and however many people following me on Twitter. That's not enough. That's not enough for me to raise. That wouldn't even have been enough for me to raise, I think, the $5,000 to do the music video, let alone $30,000 for the first out. But because Josh Porter and Amelia Bell and Ross Pruden and Rick Bauer, who wrote it. Rick Bauer is another producer. He wrote the first out. He's on the East Coast. So what we have somebody in Washington, somebody in Philadelphia, somebody in San Francisco, a couple people in Sacramento. We have this team of people that are working together to attack all these different markets and focus on the people that they think of, the influencers that they can reach, the people that they know, reaching out to their warm circle. And so you ultimately, the more you huddle together, it's like a bunch of penguins, right? The more you huddle together, the more warmth there is, the bigger your warm circle is. And then you set your goal amount based on a realistic estimate of that, because you would rather fund and then overfund. It always looks good if you overfund a campaign. So hopefully that answers your question, Trevor. There is no exact science, but you definitely want to really think about your branding and your social media. Using social media, it's a very powerful tool, and there's lots of it out there, and it's easy to do. It's really not hard to do. If it's hard for you, just find somebody that is good at it. We all have a friend that is really good at posting updates and getting the word out without being annoying, without spamming. But yeah, build your team, and that's the best way to get it out there. But doing the updates and having a campaign that, if you jump from 30% to 50, 60%, you're going to also be on a successful. You're going to pop up on a popular page or on a hot list. I don't know how it works, but Kickstarter has staff picks. They just arbitrarily, just projects that they happen to take a liking to, that the staff members take a liking to, they'll put those on the staff picks page. I've never had that happen. And I really did think with a project like The First Out, dealing with the subject matter that it is, it has a huge groundswell of it's part of a movement that's already happening. It's a film about a subject, about the first openly gay baseball player, and which actually hasn't happened. We just had Jason Collins come out in the NBA, but there's never been somebody active in baseball at the beginning of their career, not at the end, that's getting ready to come out. And so we anticipated, we thought this thing is going to go crazy. So we're going to set it at a realistic amount, and then we're going to set up stretch goals. Now, I'll tell you real quick in a nutshell, stretch goals are goals that you set beyond your whatever your 100% goal is. So for us, it was $30,000, but we had stretch goals for once we hit 30,000. Okay, we're going to keep going if we still have time in our camp, because if you funded 100% and you still have a week left, your campaign keeps going. You can keep raising money. And so we had stretch goals in place, all the way up to $1 million. We were thinking big. Our infrastructure was set up for that. We were planning for that. There was no way to know, and it was and clearly, if we wanted it to go viral and hit $1 million, it would have. But you can't make that happen. not even with something that's a cause like that. So and it's now, but then you have now something that's happened recently. This is just since the last campaign that we did for the first out. There's been 2 examples of I guess it's kind of a phenomenon. I don't know what it is, but talk about your warm circle. So Veronica Mars, the Veronica Mars movie project. I don't know if anybody listening has heard about this, but they shattered all kinds of Kickstarter records and crowdfunding records. They raised almost 5.8, 5.7 and a bunch of change, but they raised $5.8 million to make this movie for Veronica Mars. And what it was, they had 91,000 backers, and which is just it's an insane amount. But what that is that's a fan base. What they had, the reason they were able to achieve that is because they have an astronomical fan base. It's a niche. It's people that want to see this movie made because they love the show. Do I think that they knew that they were going to do that? I don't think they had any idea that it was going to be that successful. I think that they thought that they would give it a try. I think they thought that, we have a fan base. We have people that want this show to come back on. Or want a movie to be made of the show. Let's put it out there. Let's put it to the fans. If the fans like it, then let them speak. And they spoke to the tune of $5.8 million. And now Zach Braff, the star of Scrubs and the writer and director and star of Garden State, if you don't know who he is, Zach Braff, he's got about 65 hours left in his campaign, but he has just raised $2.7 million with a goal of $2 million. So he's already overfunded, and this is the second account. He basically saw what happened with Veronica Mars and said, you know what, I would like to make this film, and the studio said if I can raise this much, then we can do it. And so it's an interesting thing that's happening. I don't know if it's good for us or if it's bad for us. I don't know if the fact that celebrities and filmmakers, and you know what, they have every right to do it as well. There should be no restrictions on it, but it's interesting that they're now coming on and using the pool, and they're setting this bar astronomically high. I think ultimately what it'll do is maybe cause people to think that they can set their goals a little bit more unrealistic than they should. And I've seen that happen. Unfortunately, I have filmmaker friends, and I have people that have done Kickstarter campaigns or Indiegogo campaigns, crowdfunding campaigns that have been unsuccessful, and that's hard to watch, and especially when you have nothing to do with it and you're not involved in it, and you just kind of sit back and you can share it on Facebook for them, and you can try to spread the word for them, but there's only so much you can do. Once that goal amount is set, you can't change it, and sometimes you wish you were in on the planning process of it, and that's kind of ultimately what we're talking about. So much of the work of a successful campaign, crowdfunding, is done before the campaign is ever launched. And Ross Pruden drilled that into us, and it's very valuable. I have to say the success of our campaigns has been largely imparted to the prep work and building that infrastructure and making sure that you're realistic about what your goals are.
Well, I think you make some very interesting points here, Matthew, about the fan base. We had a conversation about 1 month ago with Georgia Hilton, who's making a movie on a submarine, and cool. It's a $1 million movie on a $75,000 budget, and they decided that they would get 1,000 fans in their Facebook account before they started their crowdfunding campaign. But she went more than that. She didn't just want 1,000 fans. She wanted 1,000 interactive fans. So she's asking them things like, which submarine do you like? Do you like this one or do you like this one? Or we're thinking of using this uniform. Which uniform do you prefer? Do you think the girl should be blonde? Do you think she should be brown haired? And she's asking them questions that they can interact with and get feedback from. So, you're actually involving the audience before you go crowdfunding. The other things that we're talking about as well to some of the other people that we've talked about is, as you said, having small parties to broadcast the event, interviewing the director on webinar or on Google Hangouts, interviewing the actors where people can phone in and ask them questions directly. So you get your fan base involved before you launch. And I think this is a big mistake that people do, is that they launch and then try and build their fan base. And what you're saying is do it the other way around.
Yeah, build if you can as much as you possibly can. I mean, ultimately, take whatever you have, whatever people that you do have that believe in you already, which are usually friends and family and colleagues that you've made along the way. But maybe the random fan, here or there. But yeah, take those people and build on that, and as much as you possibly can. Absolutely. And keep people engaged. Like when we did the First Out campaign, we did video updates. We went on, the director and I went on Good Day Sacramento, which is a local morning program that actually they have Mark S. Allen, who does Market the Movies, and they have a whole component of their morning show, their news program that is dedicated to movies and Mark S. Allen goes out and does these things. And we actually went on and sat on the couch and talked to Cody and did an interview. We did a couple radio interviews, talked about crowdfunding, talked about the project, talked about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So it was stuff leading up to it. It was stuff during the campaign. Like I said, it's a project in itself. It's honestly, I can't think of a crowdfunding campaign. I would not recommend doing a crowdfunding campaign and not having a pitch video, whether it's 1 minute long and I wouldn't go over 10 minutes, and I would say 10 minutes is even pushing it. You just got to think we're living in the ADD generation. People are either too young to want to watch it or too old to want to watch it, and that's just the reality of it. And then you'll get some people that will watch it all the way through, which Kickstarter tracks that for you and lets you know the people that are actually watching your video all the way through. But you want a pitch video. It's very, very important that once you get into the actual working operational time of your campaign, during that time, you want to make sure that you have a pitch video on there and it's good, because it's got to engage people, and it works so much better than just throwing up a picture placeholder and some text and saying give us money and this is why.
Well, we've got a great question from Jimmy, which I'll ask in a minute. Yeah. But we've got some comments coming in, and
good.
Let me just read some of them to you. John says that Zach also found an equity investor, which is cool. John has said, what about doing several smaller campaigns instead of one big one?
Interesting.
It's a good thing. Dave is saying it's a good thing that celebrities are crowdfunding, and Google Hangouts are awesome. They absolutely are, Dave. I'm just about to transfer, actually. We're using GoToWebinar right now. In about 2 or 3 weeks, we're actually switching over completely to Google Plus Hangouts. They are awesome, and you can automatically upload them and live stream them on websites as well. So, and it's free and unlimited visitors. So it's really awesome.
That is something we did, Tim, real quick, just to touch on. That's something we also started. We did that during our campaign, and it's something that we actually want to continue during the life of the project of the First Out. But during our campaign, we did that. We actually did an interview with a pro wrestler, two professional wrestlers. They're best friends. One is gay and one is straight, and the gay guy came out to the other, and we actually did a 30-minute. We started an interview series through the Google Hangouts. I think that's brilliant. If you can do that, if you can get your actors on there, get your director, get your art director, your composer, anybody that's interesting, and do Google Hangout series. That is brilliant, and it broadcasts it right to your YouTube channel. You can have it all set up. They can watch it live, and then it automatically archives it, and it's great. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, well, I know we can probably talk for about 6 hours on this, and in the limited time we have, we're not going to be able to answer everything. But Jimmy has a great question, and I think it's something that I've often wondered about. He says, "What do you find the best crowdfunding incentives, and what kind of rewards do people respond well to?"
So, I would say the most successful things that people as a filmmaker are going to be basically you're basically selling your movie in advance. Advanced sales of your film. People are going to want, especially if it's got some kind of a bonus DVD or some kind of if it's a special edition, autographed, something like that. But a lot of times that's how Veronica Mars, that's how Wish I Was Here, Zach Braff's thing. That's how they're getting 91,000 backers or 50,000 backers is because they're pre-selling the movie, and they're giving it and they're getting it. They get to make it happen. They get to be a part of making it happen, and their copy is going to be in the mail as soon as it's done. They're going to get one of the first copies. So that is a great thing, and it's an affordable tier that you can make that affordable. You need to have something for everybody. You need to have something for $1. Call it the tip jar. Call it what you want. Have something for $5. Have something for $20. You're going to get a lot of, you're going to get a lot of, if you get a couple hundred people to give you $20, that's thousands of dollars, and you're probably better off getting those. And then experiences. I've found that people are interested in experiences. And that's not just thanks in the credits. Some people like that, but ultimately, for example, we gave people the opportunity, and we had people that bought this tier, that pledged at this tier. But we have people that are going to be coming out when we're filming the film, the first out. They're going to get to come out to a professional ballpark and take batting practice on the set. We'll have a time during one of our days of filming when we take a break from filming, and we'll probably be rolling behind the scenes footage, but we'll have people out there taking batting practice from a pitching coach, throwing them balls, and they'll get to have that experience on the field. I was
going to say that's a really awesome idea, because not only does it involve your audience in that, but it actually gives the crew a little bit of a break and some fun as well, and bonding, and that's a cool idea.
Yeah. So things like that. We've done for things where people that want to give more money, the people that do have a little more disposable income and that want to give a higher amount, we'll give them like VIP treatment. Let them come out to the set. They don't have to take batting practice, but they can stand under a nice tent and drink wine and eat cheese and mingle with the actors and mingle with the filmmakers. It's a headache as a filmmaker. You don't want a bunch of non-film people on your set. But that's what that day becomes. If these are the people that are going to help you fulfill your dream and make your project happen, if they're willing to give their hard-earned money, then the least you could do is provide an experience for them where on one of the lighter days, just don't schedule a grueling 16-hour shoot date. Pick a day when you're going to be in a really nice location and pamper them and give them a VIP red carpet experience. So I've found that people want the film, or they want the CD if you're a band or whatever, and then they want experiences. And then swag. Swag is always good. A cool T-shirt, a cool hat, a messenger bag, a pin, guitar picks. I mean, it really get as creative as you want. Really, and there's companies, there's specialty merchandising companies. People that print on pins, people that print on mugs. Those companies are a dime a dozen, and you can get so many little tchotchkes and things that you can give away. You should under-promise and over-deliver, and think about that too. Think about making some magnets or with little movie posters. Make little movie poster magnets and throw those in for free whenever they get the DVD. Don't even let them know it's coming. Don't even put it on there. Just do that for them. These people will come back and give to you again and again. You'll create a fan base that will come back and continue funding your project after, because asking people for money is tricky, and if you do it once, you might get some money. You start doing it more than once, and you're going to exhaust that warm circle. You're going to exhaust people asking them for money if you're always just asking. So give them a reason to want to give to you, and give them a reason to want to do this and go above and beyond to provide for that and to give them something extra special.
Well, I think that ties in very neatly with the question we've got from Reza, and John also has a question, which is good. Reza says, is it important to mention our biography, for example, the festivals or awards we've won, or is that not a good idea? Or is that a reason for them to join you because you've done these things?
Yeah, credibility. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about if somebody's just pledging their money, they're donating their money. You're giving them something in return, but they're not getting a return. They're not getting that money back, and they're not getting that money back with ROI. So it's you've got to give them something. But sorry, I lost the question. Go back to refresh my memory real quick. What we were just talking about.
Is it important to mention our biography, the festivals, awards that we've won?
Yeah, exactly. It is because you want if people are going to give their money, they need to know that it's not just going to Joe Schmo who got a camera for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's not just somebody that any credibility. The fact that this is what you do, you have a track record, showing a track record of success, especially awards. Ultimately, that's I never promote doing art for the awards, but from a businessman's point of view, that's what awards are good for. If you do the art and you do it for the right reasons and it's good and you do garnish awards, those laurels and those awards are good for the business side of things, because everybody knows if you win a Best Actor Oscar, your rate goes through the roof. That's how you get to be. It goes up by the millions. The money that you can ask when you're Daniel Day-Lewis and you've won 3 Academy Awards. Like you can name your price that's on a very grand scale. Scale it down to the little independent film festivals and just any awards that you got. It shows that other people also believe in your work, and it shows that you've stood out amongst a pack of other filmmakers or other projects. And so yes, I would say use your awards, use it wisely. Use it. Don't force it down people's throats, but make it available if they're legit awards and they lend you your credibility as a filmmaker.
Brilliant. And I think it's a great idea to. I do it, and I know people like to say, hey, I was involved in an award-winning film.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
That's cool. But John has a brilliant question, and I think this is going to be one of our last questions because we're wrapping up. If anyone does have any more questions, please type them in now. He said, if you made a DVD as an incentive for crowdfunding, would that hurt your distributors or hurt you with distributors?
No, I don't think so. I mean, because on your crowdfunding campaign, you're probably going to get, for example, with the first out, we had 106 backers. Actually, both campaigns, the music video and the first out, 2 different goal amounts, but we both campaigns ended up with 106 backers. Interestingly enough, that's not a lot of people. If you're looking at a distribution deal, 100 backers, and not even all of those people were promised DVDs. So I don't think that's going to affect you greatly. It might be something at a larger level when you're talking about 100,000 copies of the movie. Yeah, that would be digging into your distribution deal, and that would be something that you would need to be that would be worked out in negotiations with the distribution company. Ultimately, I believe that a successful Kickstarter campaign or a successful crowdfunding campaign, when you hit your goal, especially if you overfund, that also, like an award, it's kind of like an award when you're going in to talk to investors and distribution houses. It's like an award. It says, we already have people interested. We have people that believe in this to the tune of 30,000, 50,000, 100,000, however much you raise. When you have a successful campaign, it looks really good to investors when you're going after more money, because that's exactly what we did with the 30,000. What we raised the 30,000 for was to hire our line producer, get our business plan made, make our pitch kits. I wish we were on webcam so I could show you these beautiful first out pitch kits with DVDs attached in the back, and it's all color. It looks like a program from when you go to a baseball. When you go to a baseball game, it looks like a baseball program because it's a baseball movie. So it's just all, and that was Amelia and Josh and Rick and everybody involved in that just made it beautiful. Craig Fouts. So it looks good if you have that, and I don't think it would hurt your distribution. I think if anything, it would help it having a successful campaign.
Great. And one of the things that I think you mentioned about earlier was preparation. And
yes.
if you feel that you're going to have this as an issue with your distributors, and honestly, I think the distributors should be coming in on the crowdfunding anyway.
Yeah.
If you feel you're going to have this as an issue, then before you start the crowdfunding, you sit down with the distributors and say, look, we're going to be handing out 1,000 copies or 5,000 copies. And, it's just the way it's going to be. We need to do this and get them to agree to it, support it, and promote it.
Right.
And then it doesn't become a problem.
Well, and those 1,000 copies are still working for you. That's
absolutely.
The thing. Those 1,000 copies are owned by people that love the movie, and they were a part of making it happen. So what are they going to do? They're going to take their one copy and they're going to show it. And there's nothing wrong with saying, please do not duplicate. Like, send out a backer only update. Kickstarter's great like that. You can send out updates just to your backers, people that have already pledged, and specifically request them. Say, those of you that are getting DVD copies, please share it with your friends. Please, once you get it, show it to people, but don't pirate it and don't duplicate it, so that this film that we were all a part of making happen, so it doesn't affect our distribution, so that it can get more widespread. But ultimately, you'll have 1,000 little workers out there, 1,000 little worker bees out there spreading your film around and spreading and being your publicist, being your street team, ultimately.
And I think those 1,000, the work that they contribute will be greater than any possible damage that one person copying it and giving it to a few friends would do. So, for me, it's not a big issue. But Reza has what's probably going to be the last question today, and it's a great question. She says, let's talk a little bit about pitching. How can we pitch this on crowdfunder or crowdfunding sites without telling the whole film story?
Yeah, it's tricky. So when we shot a teaser, we actually raised independently. We raised $2,000 to shoot a high production value. We shot with the Red Epic camera when it had just come out, and we had a couple of Red cameras, but one Red Epic, and we shot at Banner Island Ballpark in Stockton, California, which is a professional minor league ballpark. And we spent about $2,000 and stretched that and made a really good 2-minute teaser. So I had that. I directed the pitch video for that campaign, and so we had Bill Patrick from NBC Sports, thanks to Rick Bauer's relationship with him. Rick Bauer, the writer used to work for ESPN, so we brought in Bill Patrick. We had an assemblyman from New Jersey that came on. We had a couple of celebrities in the pro wrestling arena. Maria Kanellis, who was on Celebrity Apprentice, and so we put a pitched video together that talks about our project, talks about the issue at hand, which is going to be different for each campaign, but then we bookended that, we tagged it with the teaser. And so we had a 2-minute teaser at the end. And what it did is we were able to tell why it's important, why they should give, what the cause is about, separate from the story, and then show a teaser, and that's what a teaser does. A teaser, when you show 2 minutes of a film that's going to be 2 hours long, no matter what you show, there's still an hour and 58 minutes of film that they're not seeing. No matter what's in that teaser, you're not giving it away. You're whetting their appetite. And there's teasers and trailers are an art form in themselves. That's why they have trailer and teaser competitions now. And that's become a thing. But we did.
I agree. I think even if you hear the whole story, even if you hear the ending, there's a difference between hearing it and actually seeing it on the big screen.
Absolutely. There's so much more to storytelling. It's so much more, and we all know that because when you go and see when you see a teaser and all the funny stuff is in the teaser, and you go see the film and you watch the rest of the film and you're like, wow, it goes both ways ultimately. But yeah, sometimes you don't even need to watch the whole movie, just watch the teaser because all the best parts are in there. That happens more often with comedy, but there's no way you just can't. All you can do with 2 minutes is whet the appetite, and that's exactly why it's called a teaser. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the best way if you can do that. If you can shoot some kind of a teaser, whether you can shoot a high value one or a high production value one, or you can do what you can. Make it polished. Don't put anything on there that is too campy or too cheesy. You're representing yourself. It's like an actor with a headshot. If you want that headshot to represent who you are as an artist, and the level of quality of it is going to say a lot. So just make sure that it's the highest quality that you can produce, and use that. It would really help you sell your film. But you're not gonna give too much away. So just be careful.
And Chuck makes a little comment saying, interesting approach about getting the backers involved. I like it. Yeah, I liked it too. I love the idea of getting people involved the way you talked about on the baseball field and stuff like that. Last question before we start wrapping up is, where do you see the future of independent film financing headed with crowdfunding?
Well, it's interesting to say. I would like to think that it's going to continue to, it's going to just keep going, and people are going to get really good at it, and this will be something that keeps going. I could also see people getting sick of it. I could see it being a fad. That's why I'm not sure. I am happy. Part of me is happy that the Veronica Mars and the Zach Braffs and the celebrities are getting involved, and they're using it as well. Part of me is excited about that because it does bring more attention to it, and it might make people that were more reluctant to give to it, thinking that it's some kind of a scam, it might lend some more credence and credibility to the whole concept and the whole method of crowdfunding. It could also just destroy it because the studios get involved. Who knows? But I think also you just have to be careful. Don't knock. It's like door-to-door salesman. Don't keep knocking on the same doors all the time. I think ultimately, I would love to see crowdfunding just get more refined as technology and social media and things. We're able to connect all over the world and spread globally. International things happening. You know, there's Kickstarter movies that have won Oscars now. There was a short documentary that finally won an Oscar. There's been plenty that have been nominated, but there's actually Oscar-winning crowdfunded short films out there now, which is fantastic. Like, so I think it's only going to get better. I would say it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Kickstarter, Indiegogo are just two on the top of a long list. There's lots. Some of them are very specific. So do a little research on the different ones depending on what you're going for. If it's something that's more philanthropic, there are websites. There are crowdfunding sites specifically for things like that deal with human rights and civil rights. Or then there's obviously Kickstarter. Then there's Feed the Muse or Razoo or different things for music. So find the one that works for you. Research it, prepare, build your tiers, and just remember it's collaboration is an art form, and I just see crowdfunding as another extension of collaborating. It's the art of getting somebody to reach in their pocket and give you that $1, give you that $5, get online and put their very, very important private personal credit card information onto a website. It's hard to get people to do that. Just identity theft. We're battling so many things with it. So I just think as it gets safer, as more success comes from it, I think it's going in the right direction. And I think if it's done correctly, I'll have a job as a consultant and a campaign manager for a long time doing this, and ultimately that makes me happy because people are going to get to live their dreams, and ultimately that's what it's about. It's about the little guy. It's about the little people getting to do what they want to do without the studios and without having to go out and break your back to raise the money yourself as well. So.
Fantastic. And you've given so generously of your time for the last hour and your knowledge and everything. Time to turn the tables a little bit and focus on you. What are you working on right now? And
well, so right now we are the first out is something that we plan to shoot next year. We have taken the money that we raised on Kickstarter and used almost every last cent of it very wisely, putting more of the right team together and getting these pitch kits, which has led us now to investors, which is what the goal was. So we actually have some very good, very strong financial partners that have come on board and are helping us get to our goal of actually $2 million was what we initially started at, and then we hired our line producer, Gary Kaut, who's actually a production manager on Rango with Johnny Depp, and he's done a bunch of stuff. He's
cool movie, that was.
Yeah, it was a fun one.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. He's gotten to work on some really cool projects. He's actually, I think he's in Alaska right now working on something called Redwood Highway or something.
Wow. And I watched the trailer of your movie, and it looks very good, and I'm sure it's going to be a great movie, and maybe even a little controversial, which is not a bad thing. You mentioned just now that you did consulting as well. I've got a slide up right now for anyone who wants to get in touch with Matthew. You can find out about the movie The First Out at www.thefirstout.com. And then if you want to get in touch with Matthew to talk about consulting or anything that we discussed tonight, Matthew@bellhammer.com. And of course, you can contact me, Tim Bennett, through my site, argonet.com. My email address is tim@argon.com.ph, and Facebook argon.com, Argon Vision. And I think you have been awesome tonight, and thank you for sharing your time with us. And I'm sure Alicia, Amelia, Chuck, Dave, Jimmy, John and John, Michael, Reza, Tim and Trevor, I'm sure you'll all agree that Matthew has been awesome tonight. And thank you for joining us. And what happens now is that I will send you all a link to a recording of this webinar so that you can hear it again should you wish to, or send it to your friends who missed it today. It'll be up live maybe on YouTube or something for about a week or so. And then what I do is I upload it along with all of my other webinars that I've done to what's called the Film Finance Club. And you can find out about the Film Finance Club at argonet.com/FFC. I have presently about 6 interviews there with the MP3s, MP4s, and the transcripts. It's $1 a month. So after a little while, it goes into that, and the $1 just pays the cost of the bandwidth and everything. So I want to thank everyone for being here today. It's been awesome having you. Thank you for all the contributions with the questions. If you've got any more questions, please contact Matthew or myself at the email addresses. I'm just trying to go back. There you go. The email address is there. Matthew, you've been awesome. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I hope you come back again someday and tell us a bit more about the First Out as well.
Likewise, I would be more than happy to come back anytime. I really appreciate you, Tim, what you're doing, everybody that joined us, and just for this opportunity. I learn by talking and sharing and hearing questions and talking to you. So I thank you for what I learned today, too, and thanks for everyone for tuning in.
Brilliant. And the salutations are coming in. Jimmy Woo says, thanks, Tim and Matthew. Tim says, thanks for the help. And Chuck says, great insights. I've always been skeptical and still a bit, but I think I've learned a few things.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph,
understandable.
Thank you too. Yep. I agree. You know, I think crowdfunding could be a great tool, but you know, you have to be careful how you use it.
Yep.
Amelia says, thank you so much and brilliant insights. And
I think that's Amelia Bell, actually. That's Bell, the Bell and Bellhammer right there.
Aha.
She's our social media marketing, and she's fantastic.
It is indeed Amelia Bell. And I tell you, I think social marketing is a big part of our film success right now. So maybe sometime we can get Amelia on and she can share her secrets about how she uses social media. That
would be absolutely worth everybody's time.
Brilliant. And well, let's contact and organize that in the coming month, if Amelia is okay with that.
Thank you so much.
And John says, thank you. 3 thank yous. So thank you, everybody. It's been awesome. Matthew, wonderful having you here, and brilliant keeping in touch with you. Have a great day, everybody, wherever you are. This is Tim Bennett for Argon Vision and Argon Animation and the Film Finance Club, and we have been talking to the amazing Matthew Donaldson about crowdfunding, and we look forward to seeing you all again very, very soon. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matthew.